As is usual, the coffee chat is in session. And guess who's here with me today?
Very good morning, Mr. Mgambi.
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
But it looks like it's a bright Monday.
Well, for Miss Tunzi, who just won Miss Universe, yes. For the rest of us with this rain, not so much.
But she's done it for all of us.
Oh, but we still have to go through this awful weather. Oh, man, I just saw that weather report. I was just so disheartened.
Rafiwa, it's good that we have rain.
Yes,
remember, we are
need it.
A water-scarce country, so these rains are really a welcome relief.
That's true. I suppose one can't complain about what we need.
Xoli, let's welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Good morning to you.
All right, let's kick this off, guys. And indeed, we start with the weather. The front page of the Bild newspaper talks about chaos with rain, and there's more to come. Listen, how impressive is that? I've just translated an Afrikaans headline into English. I mean, I'm brilliant.
You're brilliant. We'll go with that. Look, you're brilliant indeed.
This rain, though, it is causing misery for some residents who have their homes in, places that they ought not to be.
Yeah.
Low-lying areas, there's warnings of flooding. Yeah?
No, that's very true. And I mean, on my way to work, for example, and I think this article alludes to it as well, is that there's very poor infrastructure and maintenance on our roads in terms of drainage systems and the like. And I mean, we always go back to this, Xoli and Edwin, the amount of corruption and the lack of taking care of municipalities is going to have a major ripple effect on everything. And we're seeing it with the floods and the inability for cities to manage the rains that we're seeing.
Xoli, I think what Rafiwa is saying cannot be more emphasized, because in Durban, not so long ago, we had flooding, and do you know what they complained about? The drainage systems that were blocked, that were not maintained. She's quite right.
No, she's quite right. And I'll give you an assignment. When you drive around this town, just take note of all the drainage covers that have been upended, that are not in place. And some of them, you wouldn't even notice that that's a drainage cover on the side of the road, and you'll see big puddles. So you're right, infrastructure is very key, because when you have localized flooding, it'll happen. I mean, we saw in Uppington, and they'd had a drought, and then it just poured, and it just flooded the streets. I mean, I saw one guy swimming in the street. But they were happy to have had rain, because they'd been suffering from, it's been dry. But once they now get to the next day, and then they have to deal with flooded streets, where the water's got nowhere to go, then you start knowing and realizing that the infrastructure needs to be in place, because you'll always have localized flooding. But if you, have normal rain, you need to have that water running off somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, guys, I think the weather situation also is almost a trickle-down effect in as far as our power systems are concerned, although this should not be the case. We're not trying to excuse Eskom at all, but if you look at the front page of the Mercury, down in KZN, it talks about dark times for KZN small businesses, load shedding and water disruptions hurting profit margins. Eskom apparently has also used the excuse of wet coal as to why we are in the situation that we're in. I mean, they should be just wrapped over the knuckles. I honestly have no time for Eskom anymore.
That's true. That's very true. I mean, you would have heard last week a lot of the analysts saying that the excuses that Eskom is giving us is really, it's not good enough. And frankly, it may not even be all that true. It can't come at a worse time. The festive season, factories are supposed to be churning out products for Christmas presents, and this is supposed to be an amazing time in terms of sales for businesses. But I mean, this is just a disaster. And I mean, one lady in the article talks about the fact that she's having to throw Christmas cakes away because while she's baking, the power will just go off.
And there is talk that the load shedding schedules are not reliable. I have to be honest, from my neck of the woods, every time they said your suburb will be, shedded at this time, it actually does.
Yeah, in my suburb too. But we know it rains every year. I mean, we may be a water scarce country, but we know in the summer, if you live in Gauteng, you know there's going to be thunderstorms in the afternoon. We cannot have Eskom coming out, and it's not the first time they're saying wet coal. So what are they doing about it? I mean, you can get a canvas, you can get a small business to come in. And
frankly, we don't care. They should have. They should make provision for this.
That's what I'm saying. They should have an idea of how they're going to deal with it.
They can't even deal with the mass looting and mismanagement that's happened over the years. So
perhaps, perhaps the person to explain it best to us is Jan Opelhoza. He is the COO at Eskom. He's going to talk to us in this hour. We are promised. In fact, that leads us then, Rofiwa, to you, that business article on the front page of the Mercury. It leads us to you talking to us about what's coming up on
this week.
In the economic week ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the end of the year is here, so it's dying down quite a bit, but we've got crucial inflation numbers out this week. You'll remember in the previous period, it was at around 3.7%, which is very close to the target range of the SARB, and that's not good. And this is just an illustration of what the economy is looking like at the moment. You're finding a lot of retailers are not able to increase prices as they should be because the consumers just won't be able to afford to spend. Already consumers are struggling to spend. So you're finding that retailers are leaving prices the same. Some are even lowering them just to make sure that they can get some revenue in, and that's what's impacting on the inflation number. We're also seeing that the lower fuel prices are also having an impact then. I mean, if the rand was stronger than it currently is, then we might see a little bit of positive movement. So economists are expecting it to go lower again in this period, and then of course there are fears of a deflation coming into place. And I mean, for someone like me, when you have deflation, it means prices are going to continue to drop, and you're not going to be spending your money because you know that Merc is going to be cheaper next week. But that's a problem because that doesn't grow the economy at all. So that's what's going to be looked at in terms of the economic week ahead and really what our inflation trajectory is going to be looking like.
That's why you're here. You know business. I don't. Khazwe, you talk to us about sports now.
Well, the next book coach. I think that we need to look at successful teams. And the Springboks have been very successful. They're the best sporting team we've had in this country.
What should we be looking forward to? I've just promoted them in my intro that we were celebrating them.
Yes. So, they're going to appoint the coach before Christmas. And the man who's been touted to take over from Rassie Erasmus is his old buddy, Jacques Nienaber, who is the current Springbok defense coach. You watched the Rugby World Cup and you saw how good the Springbok defense was keeping out.
That story, where is it? Is it on the
It's in the Witness
sports pages?
It's in the Witness, the back page. Box neck coach. Nienaber is set to take over from Rassie. Rassie is moving up to the position of director of rugby, which is what he's been hired to do. He just took over as coach in the interim to get the Springboks up and running after the disastrous years of Alistair Coetzee.
So maybe we shouldn't be worried because this is someone who's worked hand in glove with Rassie Erasmus, and therefore he should know the ways about. It basically talks to continuity, doesn't it?
Yes.
But is there a downside, though?
There is a downside. He's been in the background. He's been the defense coach. They go way back, the two of them. I mean, they met in the army and they coached in Bloemfontein at the Cheetahs. He was a physiotherapist there, but he hasn't had a front and center position as a head coach, fronting up to criticism, fronting up to the media.
So he's not used to
it will be interesting to see how he handles that if he gets the position.
Indeed. Yeah. All right. Guys, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ndembi.
Thank you indeed. Khazwe, you remaining here with me.